This is the secret of the book they tried to bury. There are books we read to remember, and books we were never meant to find, hidden for centuries and preserved only in the Ethiopian highlands. The Book of Jubilees is not simply an ancient retelling of Genesis. It is a divine chronicle that threatens the accepted order of religious tradition, revealing secrets of time, law, angels, and prophecy. This book is for those who feel the veil thinning, who sense that the past holds keys to the future, and who are brave enough to look where others have been told not to. The book they tried to bury. What if one ancient text could rewrite everything you thought you knew about time, law, angels, and prophecy? The Book of Jubilees wasn't lost, it was forbidden. Why? Because it reveals a divine calendar the world abandoned, a war in the heavens before the flood, laws written before Moses, and a final jubilee that may be closer than we think. The Forbidden Book of Jubilees. Revealing ancient truths is not just a book, it's a revelation. Preserved in secrecy for centuries, this ancient text unveils a divine calendar lost to history, an angelic war that shaped humanity, eternal laws written before Sinai, prophetic cycles that map the future, and a final jubilee that could reset the world. Suppressed by religious authorities and erased from mainstream scripture, Jubilees contains the blueprint of sacred time and the warnings of what happens when we break it. This book exposes the conspiracy against divine truth and dares you to remember what was never meant to be forgotten. Step into the mystery, realign with the eternal, discover what was hidden, because now the veil is lifting. They erased it from the canon, but now it's resurfacing, right when the world is unraveling, ready to uncover the truth hidden for millennia. We will explore the 5 foundational truths Jubilees unveils, and why it was forbidden in the first place. 1. The calendar conspiracy. How sacred time was broken, time was designed. In the Book of Jubilees, the original divine calendar consisted of 364 perfect days. Unlike the fluctuating lunar calendar, this solar system harmonized with creation itself. Jubilee 6 warns that humanity would abandon this sacred structure, choosing lunar cycles that would slowly lead them out of rhythm with heaven. As holy days began to fall on incorrect dates and Sabbaths were misplaced, the people lost their alignment with divine order. The effects were not just ritualistic, but cosmic. By altering the calendar, the world lost track of sacred history. Festivals ordained by heaven were desecrated unknowingly. The manipulation of time became a tool of spiritual disorientation. Who changed it? Why? Jubilees hints that this wasn't mere error, it was orchestrated. A war on the sacred begins not with violence, but with confusion. 2. The Angelic War. Watchers, scribes, and the spirit world behind history. Jubilees reveals that our history has always been entangled with celestial beings. It describes a hierarchy of angels, those of the presence, the face, the scribes of judgment. These beings not only observe, but influence the trajectory of nations. The most chilling revelation is the fall of the Watchers, angels who descended to earth, married human women, and birthed the Nephilim, giants whose violence led to the flood. This is not myth. Jubilees aligns with the 3rd Enoch and Genesis 6, but goes further, detailing how the sin of these angels disrupted heaven's order. Yet even after the flood, their influence lingered. Behind empires, behind wars, behind awakenings, angels stand. Some work for restoration, others continue the rebellion begun before the flood. Everything you do is seen, everything is written. 3. The eternal law, what was written before Moses. If the law began with Moses, then religion is man-made. But Jubilees reveals a deeper truth. The law was not given at Sinai, it was restored there. Adam observed the Sabbath. Enoch practiced righteousness. Noah performed sacrifices. Abraham celebrated the feasts. Jubilees insists that these figures kept commandments long before the tablets were carved on stone. This overturns modern theology. Divine law is not temporary. It is eternal, written in heaven before the earth was formed. Jubilee 6 declares that these ordinances were part of creation itself. What was lost was not new laws, but the memory of them. Jubilees is a book of remembrance. Part 4, the prophetic cycles, understanding the clock of Jubilees. Jubilees introduces a divine clockwork, the Jubilee cycle. Every 49 years marks a reset, a spiritual pivot point. Covenants are renewed, debts released, lands restored. History, Jubilees tells us, moves in these divine revolutions. Abraham received his promise in a Jubilee year. The Exodus aligned with one. The return from Babylonian exile may have as well. Each cycle consists of 7 weeks of years, and each of these can be traced with cosmic precision. The prophetic pattern reveals that what was will be again. Jubilees allows us to chart where we are in sacred time, not by astrology, but by divine chronology. The signs are not in the stars, they are in the cycles. Part 5. The Last Jubilee. Are we approaching a divine reset? If the Jubilee is a reset, what happens when we reach the final one? Scripture is clear. In the 50th year, everything returns. Slaves are freed. Land is returned. Debts are forgiven. The Jubilee is both economic and spiritual. It represents divine realignment. Jubilees, alongside other apocalyptic texts, suggests that there will be a final, climactic Jubilee, the ultimate reset of creation. This is echoed in the prophets and the teachings of Yeshua, Jesus, who declared freedom to the captives and the acceptable year of the Lord. Signs of this approaching Jubilee are all around: global unrest and systemic collapse, a hunger for lost knowledge, the return of hidden books, a generation waking up to divine identity and rhythm. The last Jubilee is not the end. It is the beginning again. A scroll reopened. The Book of Jubilees was hidden because it holds a mirror to our world and reveals how far we've strayed. It challenges religious institutions. It restores divine chronology. It brings angels, law, and prophecy back into center stage. But above all, it invites us to remember, to return, to realign. We were never meant to forget. Now the scroll is open. Will you read it? Will you return? The Book of Jubilees wasn't just forgotten, it was forbidden, hidden away because it holds a dangerous power. Truth remembered. It doesn't just add to Scripture, it reveals what was lost. A divine calendar broken by man, a war of angels still shaping our world. Eternal laws written before time, prophetic cycles that count down to a final reset. And now, it's back. Not by chance, but by divine design. You found this book not because you were looking, but because you were being called. There is no going back to sleep. Once you've glimpsed the ancient rhythm, the eternal law, the hidden war, you can't unsee it. The world is out of sync, but the sacred pattern is still pulsing beneath the noise, waiting for those who remember. The last Jubilee is approaching. The trumpet will sound, and everything returns. Will you realign? Will you remember? Will you rise? The scroll is open, and this time they can't bury it again. Do you have a contrary views of this book? Drop your comment.